Well, nice to meet you all. I'm Melissa. I am honored to work at PBK. I am actually reside here in Houston, but we have offices across the country. I'm actually joined with one of my colleagues here, Ben, from our Tacoma office. So when they asked me to talk, besides being absolutely honored to do it, I just wanted to, I asked them, was there specific topics or is there something? And they said, what are you guys working on? What's near and dear to your heart? And so what I'm going to share is something as a firm that we have had conversation with this year, which is really related to health. And so kind of going from stress to success. And obviously we have a huge opportunity in what we do as architects, as, designers, school districts. Like, we have a huge impact across the country on education and students and teachers and the community. And so with that, we want to make sure we are making healthy design decisions that best support kiddos. Oh, you don't need to see that. That's just me. And students. So how this journey started. TASA Midwinter is one of the biggest conferences in Texas for Texas school administrators and leaders. So this is superintendents, this is their chief of staff, and they come together in Austin to really advocate for kind of policy change, but also to have conversation about what's relevant, what they're struggling with, what they're learning. And so we took that opportunity to do a survey of school administrators. We had, you can see about 230 responses. So again, these are kind of the tops of school districts across Texas, and said, what are some of the biggest things you're focused on? What are some of your biggest challenges? And overwhelmingly, and you can see, we heard that social emotional health of their students was a big challenge, right? Because we know if kiddos are coming to school with a lot of social emotional challenges, they're not in a headspace that they can learn, which is the primary reason to be there. So this makes it really difficult for educators to do their jobs because kids are not ready to learn. Second was physical health, then nutritional health, and then environmental health. So again, we asked that. And then we asked the second question, which tracked exactly, which was teachers. We know that teachers are at record rate dropping out of the profession. And so these administrators are really worried about their teachers. Their teachers are also struggling. I just today was at a presentation and heard a superintendent talking about what a struggle teachers are doing. And they said, if you don't feed the teachers are going to eat the students. And so you've got to feed the teachers. And so these teachers are really struggling. And so we wanted to make sure as a firm and an organization that we are having relevant conversations so that the learning environments that we have the privilege of working on and designing are being responsive to this. Kiddos and teachers and community members spend, 40, 50 hours a week sometimes in schools. That's almost as much time as they spend at home. And so we have a huge opportunity to either be doing harm inadvertently or really to help offset some of the challenges that people are coming to school with and heal. Has anyone listened to the Anxious Generation book? Okay, me too. I'm listening to it. I'm like 3/4 of the way through. If you haven't, I don't sell it, but I encourage you to. It's really eye-opening of the challenge and the struggles that are happening right now with anxiety. And this chart shows, but specifically, starting in 2010, iPhones were really popular and kind of devices, social media started to pop up. And with that, they're tracking and showing that it has caused unbelievable amounts of anxiety. We also had the pandemic. And so with that, again, students are coming to schools with so many stressors, they're not ready to learn. And so in our learning environments, we want to do everything we can to help offset that so that they are in a space to learn. Same story, teachers. Teachers are also struggling. They're dropping out of the profession at record rates. They're not being backfilled, right? Not as many people are going into education. And so with that, and they're having students that need a lot more attention. And so these learning environments we're designing, so often we're talking about, as we should be, student-centric. But if we don't have a space that's also healthy for teachers, they're not going to be able to be there to help the students. So we really need to be cognizant of that and thoughtful with that. So that was kind of the framework of how we started this year. And so we focused on 3 buckets because, we're educational architects and engineers, but we also want to be educated by other people that know a lot about this and have done a lot of research in this kind of different field of study. So we focused on social, emotional, physical, and then environmental and community health. And we talked to really unique, different people. Kevin Turner, we were just talking about this. Kevin Turner designs mental health institutions. We thought no better person to talk to, because once you hit a mental health institution, everything is hypersensitive. So let's learn from them. Let's learn of what happens when you get to that, what design decisions are being made. What are the sensitivities? We talked to Claire Latinay. She's a professor at Cal Poly, and she has written a book about designing with mental health in mind, really advocating to get kids outside and the healing power of nature. We talked to General David Huntoon. He's a superintendent of West Point. So talk about stress. He's had impacts of stress. And so we learned from him about good stress and bad stress and what that means. We talked about physical health. Roberta Anding is a professor at Rice University and Baylor College of Medicine, and told us all about kind of the importance of nutrition and what you're eating and your physical kind of activity. Jonathan Stanley with Tarkett talked to us about healthy buildings and kind of not just the materials we put in, but also how we're cleaning them. And then we have two more coming up. Jaime Gonzalez, who is a dear friend of mine, talking about resilience and environmental and community health. And then Dr. Richard Taylor talking about the importance of fractals. All of these, if you're interested, you can come and contact me. You can find it on PBK's kind of LinkedIn page. They're webinars that you can listen to. We're not selling anything. We're not promoting anything. We really want to make sure that we're having kind of open access to the best research and information so that we can all change how we operate and make informed decisions. So you don't want to hear me talk for 30 straight minutes, because that'd be horrible. So I want to hear from you and kind of do a quick exercise. I'm going to ask you two questions, and you're all near friends, near and dear or brand new friends. Two questions. So talk to each other for like 2 minutes. First question is, what is your favorite place or space? And then the second one is, what makes that your favorite? Okay, so two questions, right? What is your favorite place or space? And then what makes it your favorite? And be prepared, because I'm going to call on some of you to tell us what it is. Do you guys want to share? Favorite place and space and why? On a boat. No stress. Just enjoying outdoors in nature. Do y'all have one? Yeah. On the beach. On the beach. Hearing the waves. Might have a drink with an umbrella. It sounds good. Okay. Outdoors. Yes. Just being outside. That's awesome. With people, sometimes alone. Okay. Did anyone have a space inside? In her recliner in the living room. Anything else? I'm going to stop moving because it stresses me out. Okay. Yours.
My favorite place is to be out on the water, just floating around either on a boat or a tube or something like that, because it's really peaceful. You can take in everything around you, and you get a little bit of space, because so much of our lives are crammed full of people. Being away from that for a little bit is really beneficial.
Did everyone hear that? 6 o'clock in the morning, all by himself, black cup of coffee, outside, nobody near him. Okay. That's okay. That's okay. What else? Y'all were talking. Go for it. Your floor. What material is your floor? Dog beds ever? Oh, 7 dogs. Okay. She's allergy invincible, and she has 7 dogs, and and she vacuums every day, and she likes to be on the floor. Anyone else? I love hearing. The common thread is, go. Yep. On a boat in Minnesota fishing. Okay. I think what I love about this question is, and what we're going to talk about today, is everyone's different. Everyone's safe space is different. What makes us tick is different. And so when we're talking about health and we're talking about the environments that we all have the privilege of working on or designing, all of us, all of these different things, whether it means you want to be alone, or it means you want to be on a boat, or you want to be outside, or you want to be with your dogs or your people. And so I think it's been really informative for us to make sure that when we're designing spaces, it's meeting all of those needs of all these different people that are coming with all these different backgrounds. So I'm going to go through, if it's okay, some quick learning that we've done related to these big buckets and categories. So first one, social emotional, kind of designing with empathy. So the first thing I want to tell you, and this is, again, I'm doing a lot of learning in this process too, but talking a little bit about social emotional health and making sure that we are designing with empathy, so that we are really thinking about these sweet people that are in our buildings. And what an awesome opportunity we have. Everybody remembers their school, right? Everybody. And so we have this opportunity to create environments that are memory making, and so we need to make sure that we're designing it thoughtfully. So we all know, someone talked about floor to ceiling lighting in your living room. So impact of lighting is a big deal, not just having natural light, which is obviously number one, and it's just our like yearning and craving to be in nature, but also the color temperature of lighting matters. And so this is some learning we've done this year about, when you have kind of that blue, really bright light, that's focus time, right? You can see things, it's clear, you're not relaxing in that space, but you're focused. But think about when you're with your friends or your family, candlelit dinners, that warm light invites community and invitation. So when we're designing in spatial environments, a lot of times we think, oh, well, we're just going to do the same color temperature of light across the whole facility. Shouldn't be that way, right? This is learning we've done this year of we need to really have the lighting and the color temperature focused on what we want the activity and the outcome in that space. So when you see these great nooks and pods and all of these furniture pieces and this kind of collaboration together, it's so important for us to make sure that the lighting is supportive of the end result of what we want in those spaces. Acoustics. Gosh, so we're in this like loud space, and so it's the perfect time to talk about it. When it is loud and it is chaotic and people cannot hear, it doesn't just help their kind of aptitude and tuning in and listening, but it actually impacts their happiness, right? And I think we've all had it, right? Like when you're with your family or you're with people and you can't hear and you're at a restaurant and you get frustrated. It's the same thing for kids in school. If they can't hear and have kind of decipherability, it starts as annoying. It starts as, well, they feel they can't understand, and then they become agitated and they become frustrated, and then it becomes actually detrimental to their health. So it's really important that the acoustics in spaces are well designed for these students and that we're really being supportive of them. Sometimes they even talk about like de-squaring a classroom just to help with the cacophony. Because again, all of these things are good for all of us, but especially students that are struggling, right? If you're already coming to school with neurodiversity or anxiety, these are things that might just take you over the edge of being successful. And so we want to make sure we're thoughtful in that. Wayfinding. Okay, so who coming to this conference walked 4 miles and got so lost trying to find like the room you were going to be presenting in or this hall? Because I can tell you, I did this morning. I had no idea where I was. It was disconcerting. By the time I was going to present, I was like sweating. Like it was horrible because I didn't have this clarity of wayfinding. And so for students coming to a new school or a new environment, and especially this is a early childhood center we have the privilege of designing, it is so disconcerting. And so how horrible to be in a place where you don't know where you're going and you don't know what you're supposed to be doing. And so having clarity not only of graphics, because, this is early childhood, they all can't read yet. And so having things that they can recognize, a path that they can follow that feels comfortable from the inside to out. This school actually has texture on the walls. So again, they don't realize it, but they can kind of run their hands along the walls. So having clarity and wayfinding really matters and can help reduce stress. Color. So we all know the importance of color and why people don't historically paint their bedrooms like bright red. Is that we really want to make sure that we're being thoughtful with how we use color. Kind of like light. If you want it to be a lively and active space, you're going to have the reds and the oranges. But if you want it to be calm and more kind of peaceful, the greens and the blues. I mean, look at the space we're in right now, right? Lots of good greens, lots of blues, like great furniture and color palette selection. And that's because you're trying to evoke an emotion with color. And I think it's just, all of these colors are found in nature, but the ones that, are kind of most prominent are also the ones that we gravitate towards. And if you think about the environment you all just talked about being a part of out on the water, it's those same kind of colors. So it's, I think, a sense of comfort and familiarity to us. Ironically, white is a neutral balancing, which is why I think all of our walls are white. It's kind of an empty canvas. So I would argue that that's a great opportunity for the kids to be the color and for the kids to add life to the environment. And then, no better place are we right now, is talking about furniture personalization. I love this photo because kids will make it their own, and they should. And they should have that opportunity where, he is using a table to stand on to get to another table because that's what makes him comfortable. Like shoes gone, these kids are in bean bags with feet up on the wall. And what awesome furniture we have here to use that furniture can personalize a space and give kids that feel like they don't have a sense of control in a space on a micro level in their everyday. So whether that be, benches to sit on, chairs that move, chairs that wobble, they're giving kind of a sense of ownership. And there was a study of first grade students, and if they had that ownership, they actually had better attendance, better test scores because they felt some control of their environment. So what an awesome opportunity we have to actually utilize furniture to kind of personalize environments. Okay, then physical health. So this is really designing for like our physical bodies and well-being, not just necessarily kind of our mental cognition. So physical adjacency of space. If you have ever worked in an environment where you're sitting at a desk all day, sometimes you just need to get up and move. Kids are the same way. We can encourage them to get up and move. It can help reduce childhood obesity. Even small micro moves, especially going outside, is so important. But as we have a more kind of still, motionless life, it is proving to be really detrimental to our health. And so I think as we're designing spaces or even furniture, which I'll talk about next, it's a chance for us to physically move, but it will help our physical well-being and also help us to stay alert and awake by actually having that motion in our life. And then furniture. So I love what we're sitting on now and the environment around us, because being able to move your furniture is, again, that sense of like, I'm going to take ownership of my space and I'm going to move. I'm going to move things. And that physical act of doing it helps us to stay alert and helps us to stay focused, but also personalize space. So, there's a stat which is staggering. Children ages 10 to 16 now spend only 12.6 minutes a day on a vigorous outdoor activity, compared with 10.4 waking hours of being relatively motionless. That's staggering, right? Because we've historically been people that are always outside and always moving. And so now we are becoming motionless. So any way that we can help in the school environments to create spaces, whether it be moving furniture, physically going outside, it's so dramatically important for their physical health. Indoor air quality. This got obviously tons of press during COVID, but it's a big deal. It's not just for us to, feel healthy, but it actually helps our productivity and our cognition. So teachers, I know, were, again, dropping out at a record rate. And a lot of it is because they didn't feel healthy. But if we can change this helps average daily attendance. So again, even this, they don't even, it's I guess, passive. Psychologically, they don't know that their air is cleaner, but because the air is cleaner, they're showing up to school, they are more successful, they have improved cognition, and this is for teachers and students. So really having clean air is so important. Dietary choices. So I think we're hearing more and more post-election, lots of discussion about diets and nutrition and food. And I think having a well-balanced diet is so important, and staying away from processed foods as much as possible. In an effort, because our lives have all gotten so busy and everything is a quick solution, that doesn't always lead to the best health. And so I think we're seeing that with a kind of poorly balanced diet and with too many processed foods, it's actually hurting kids' health, their physical health, and their mental health that is also related. So making sure we have well-balanced diet is really important, but that students also have choice with that. Sometimes when you have school lunch and you have one option, you don't want that option. We don't want that option. We want to pick where we go out to lunch. And so giving students a chance in a school environment to have choice in that, but also if they had a chance to grow the food or be a part of that decision and process, they're a lot more likely to be healthy and be successful. And then environmental and community, kind of this connection to nature. So I presented on this morning, so I'll try not to talk too long because I'm so passionate about it. But if you heard one of most of people's favorite space, it was somehow getting outside or connecting to nature. It's so good for your health, your mental health, your physical health, better academic performance, less behavioral challenges. It is an equalizer. And a lot of times, unfortunately, kiddos that are and communities that are disadvantaged don't have access to nature. And so it's a huge opportunity for us as we're designing schools and we're designing schoolyards to give kids access to nature and time outside. I think coming out of COVID, learning loss, the idea was, we'll just give them more time inside. They need to get, hit the books harder and do things. It's the opposite. They need brain breaks. They need to go outside. And we all need to do that. Until the past, 100 years, we as human beings spent most of our time outside. And so we've done the opposite, right? We spent so much time inside that we're showing some of the results with anxiety and stresses, and I think it's because we are craving this idea of going outside. And then, I think this is another staggering statistic. Kids today spend 44 hours a week in front of a screen and less than 10 minutes a day outside. So again, if we're all craving this time to go outside, think about your vacations. When you guys go on vacation, where do you go? You go to the beach. You go to the mountains. You go outside. But why should that be the 1 week a year, the 2 weeks a year you go on vacation? That should be every day, right? Because we're craving that. That shouldn't be something we store up. That should be something we have. And so this is a huge opportunity for us to rethink how we live our lives, how we design our schools, so that we're giving kids that opportunity every single day. I think nature is a space where it's kind of it inspires awe and wonder, but it also is an empty canvas and for creativity. If you guys remember growing up, I sound like I'm 80 years old. But when growing, you did things with sticks, and it became a wand, and for the boys it was a sword, and then it changed, and then you made a tent, and then you did all these creative things with a kind of a blank canvas. And I think in the world that we're living in, as things become more automated, you have to be creative. And if we're not giving kids time and resources to be creative, I think they're going to really struggle. And so I think nature is a great place that we can do that. That's a good question. Did you guys hear that? She's okay about play outside versus work inside. I think it should be all of it. Why can't we learn outside? Think about the best writing. It's all about nature. All of science and math came from nature. All of the proportions and the ratios and the laws of physics. So I would argue you should spend more and more time outside, and learning should be seamless. It shouldn't happen in a specific space. It should happen anywhere. And I think that's a hard and huge responsibility for teachers. And so obviously to arm them with the resources and the spatial environments to feel that flexibility in their curriculum. But yeah, I think learning should happen anywhere. So I should pause. Any other thoughts or questions? You guys you're living this. Anything? Okay, interrupt, please. Biophilic design. I think we're in it right now. We talked about the colors. We talked about the texture. This mimic of nature and this craving to be in nature. It helps reduce stress. It is healthier. Can be materials that we use. It can be patterns that you find. It's colors. It's this kind of overwhelming amount of attention that we want to spend in making sure that we are kind of getting back to who we are and in our creation and kind of in nature. Placemaking. So this is something I have done a lot of learning. So wherever we came from, arguably our schools and schoolyards looked the same. Probably maybe a brick building, had some trees, big grassy lawn, right? But that doesn't make any sense. I grew up in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Super dry, arid desert. So my high school should be like a stucco building. It should have, zero scaping because there's no water. But it didn't. It probably looked like yours that wherever you were, whether you were in Michigan or whether you were in Orlando. And so I think this is a huge opportunity for us to start to understand what it is to have a sense of place and where you come from. And so I would argue that your school materials, your building, your natural landscapes should really reflect where you come from, because that gives you a sense of pride and of ownership. And a lot of times I think now that the world is becoming kind of this equalizer, having a sense of where you come from is really important. And so this is a huge opportunity for us to kind of do some learning with that and really make it different. So this is a school, we designed an A-leaf, which I presented on this morning. The actual entire school is native landscaping, which is it's crazy. It's wild prairies, and it looks completely wild, and it's unbelievably beautiful, but it's giving kids a sense of place. But inside, it's also giving them a sense of place that we live in the Space City and they live in the International District. And so the classrooms are also reinforcing and helping give them a sense of place. Okay, I'm almost done. Don't worry. Okay, so my big call to action, I always do it, is we are so privileged to have the jobs and opportunities that we have. And if we can make change, we have so much opportunity for impact. So in no other field, in no other profession, do we have the impact of 1 in 5 people in the United States that we can influence, and for the better? And so when we see all these, staggering statistics and the why of, gosh, kids are struggling and teachers are struggling, if we can make micro and macro changes in the furniture we select, in the environments that we design, we have huge opportunity for change and healing. And so I'd say, with how much time we spend at school, with how many people are attending school, like, we have a really cool job, but a huge responsibility to make sure that we are making wise choices and are really doing a lot of learning so that we can provide spaces that are really helpful and healing. So with that, that's all I got. Any questions or thoughts? Yeah. Sure. Yeah, I'm happy to share. If you want to give me, I can send a QR code to you if you want to send it out, or if you want to, I'm happy to share any of the information or the learning we've done. Again, if you want to see the podcasts of things from learning from these amazing people that I talked about, I'd be happy to share. So, good. Yeah, sure. The question about teacher retention and how can we focus on wellness. I think the first is acknowledging this is their workplace. So just like students need places for breaks, places to go outside, choices, teachers do too. So being in a windowless classroom, that's really hard. Having inflexible furniture when you want to do a different lesson is unfortunate. And so I think empowering teachers to have choice in the spaces that they are inhabiting, giving them choice to go outside, giving them furniture that is flexible to manipulate the room is so important. Clean air, all the things, right? I think this is good. This is good for your personal life. This is good for your professional life. It doesn't really matter what age. And so I think if we can make healthier environments, it'll impact not just the students, not just the teachers, but arguably the community even around them, right? Being more resilient, more sustainable. So I don't know if that answered your question. Anything else? Well, if you think of anything, I'm happy to answer questions, and I'm honored to be here. And thank you guys for having me.